Here's a LeetCode SQL problem that is part of the SQL's 50 series on LeetCode that I just came across. And I thought this would help understand a very key technique in SQL that's really helpful and I use every day as a data engineer, right? So it's called managers with at least 5 direct reports. And we have a very simple table, employee table, and you have ID, name, department, and manager ID. And of course, ID is the primary key of the table, and name is basically the employee name, their department, and their respective manager ID. So this is the ID of the manager. So this is the employee ID, and the corresponding employee ID of their manager is manager ID, right? So that's what's given here. ID is the primary key, and each row of this table indicates the name, department, and the ID of the manager. The manager ID is null, then the employee does not have a manager, and no employee will be the manager of themselves. Now you have to write a query to find managers with at least 5 direct reports, right? Now whenever I hear this 5 direct reports, it means that I have to somehow aggregate on top of the manager ID, right? So for example, over here, if we have in this example table, example data, you have John, Dan, James, Amy, and Ron, and you have these people having the same manager ID 101, and 101 corresponds to John's ID. So John is basically the manager of these 5 people, and he doesn't have a manager himself. So we need to basically aggregate on top of this manager ID and somehow get those manager IDs that have at least 5 direct reports and get the name. So let's just start off, right? Let's just start freestyling and writing the code. So I'm just not selecting any columns as of now. Let's get to that later. Now select from employee, right? So I know that I want to group by manager ID, right? Group by manager ID, and since I already group by manager ID, what I can do now is I can take, so this result now has aggregated data, right? I can now say having count star at least 5. Okay. So this would give me you know uh, manager IDs which have at least 5 direct reports. Now let's say I select manager ID from employee, group by manager ID, this, right? Let's say I run it. So what do you see here? The result. Let's just see the result. So this is not right because the expected answer was John, that is the name, and not the ID. So that means we just have to look up into the same table, that is ID of 101, and get the corresponding name. So I'm currently printing manager ID, but I want this ID's corresponding name. So that we can simply do with a self join with the same table. And join on employee, and let's just call this A, and let's just call this B, and you can now join A dot manager ID equal to B dot, sorry to have the on keyword here, B dot ID. So what this does now is it sort of looks up into the same table and fetches and joins on ID, so that when I join uh, on manager ID equal to ID, I get the name. I'm doing this because there's no way of getting the name directly from manager ID, right? So you'll have to look up into ID and then get the corresponding name. Now that we've done this, what we need to do is not, we need to fetch or select the name and not the ID, right? But now name is there in both A and B, so you have to specify which table it is from. So I would say I'll say B dot name from employee A, join employee as B on manager ID equal to ID, group by manager ID. So this has to be grouped by A dot manager ID, because you're grouping on the first table, right? This is the driving table, that is A, having count star greater than or equal to 5. Let's test this out. There we go. So that is giving me the right answer. Let's just submit it and make sure the answer is perfect. Right. Yeah. So that's it, guys. I just wanted to show you this particular problem, even though it's a simple problem. I mean, in fact, it comes under the moderate level on lead code, but I think this is very important when, especially when it comes to data engineering, where we use having a lot. We use group by and having having class a lot because more often than not, you want to find the number of duplicates in a table. So let's say you have a table A with an ID, and you want to find the duplicates for that ID. So you would just say select ID from your table, group by uh, group by ID column having count star greater than 1. This would just aggregate on your ID, and it will give you any IDs that have count greater than 1. So that will literally give you the duplicates on that ID. Right? This is a very fundamental technique that I think everyone in any field of data uses. So I just wanted to share this and kind of demonstrate what having does. And the main key difference between having and where clause is that where filters data before the grouping operation, and having clause filters groups that are resulted after the group by operation, right? So where clause filters individual rows before any grouping occurs, and the group by will be the group by groups rows based on the specified columns, and then having clause filters the group rows based on conditions applied to the aggregated data. Example, count, sums, averages, right? In this case, it's count. You don't have to even select that over here, right? So thank you, and please don't forget to subscribe for more such data engineering content.